Welcome to Souls Bridge Podcast. I'm your host, Drew Amend, and in today's podcast, I get to sit down with a delightful young woman I met through my daughter, Kara. She is a photographer, a wife, and a mother in a growing young family who discovered very shortly after giving birth to her daughter that she is also a talented psychic medium. She has an interesting story about how she discovered this gift one day while shooting pictures of her children in the park. After realizing she was not crazy, she has come to embrace this gift and to share it with hundreds of people who seek her insights and gifts on a daily basis. Please join me in welcoming my guest today, Audrey Fibber.
And so we're live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay. How are you?
I am good. I'm so excited. Thank you for having me here.
I'm so excited to have you here because we get to do a reading here in just a little bit.
Man, I'm excited about it. I'm nervous, but I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. So just to set this up for people listening.
Yeah.
You don't know who it is.
I have no idea, but I've had their family with me since yesterday. So
Which I find extremely interesting. How the heck? Because I have this person in mind. I'm thinking, okay, I've wanted this guy on the podcast for a while. This is a good reason to have him on the podcast.
Right.
And I think that he's not real used to this kind of stuff. So I think he's going to have an interesting reaction. And so I told you that I had someone picked out.
Right.
And immediately
when you told me that you had somebody in mind, I had asked you on the phone, like, well, I have someone's dad with me right now, so I don't know whose dad it is, but someone's dad's with me in my car right now as I'm driving. And it's interesting when spirit does come through when I'm driving anyway, but I've had a dad with me since we spoke on the phone. And then he was with me while I was getting ready to come here and showing me things. I was listening to songs and now we're here and he's still here. So,
well, I when I was asking him to come to confirm that he was coming, I mentioned to him so I mentioned to him without revealing who he is, that you and I had decided that he would be coming, but you don't know who he is, that you already felt like his dad thing came in. And you had just a tiny bit of information about that.
right.
And I shared that with him, and it was on. It was spot on. Yes. So, I think it should be interesting to see what comes of this with him because, like I said, I think he's a really open-minded guy. But I think he's got just enough skepticism in him.
Oh, good. Good.
To, not just fall over and go, oh, yeah. So I think it'll be interesting. He likes to talk, so we'll see how that goes.
Good. I mean, I really hope that what I say resonates, and I always enjoy being right. So the fact that he resonated with just the smidge bit that I said, because even now, like, my head is hurting me, and
still,
yeah.
Wow.
So just the small bit of being right, everybody likes being right, and I really like being right, but I'm open to being wrong. So even if what I say to him now doesn't sit, it's not uncommon.
Well, see, that happened to me. I had my very first reading with the medium was Lana down in Dallas. I was doing training for hypnosis. Her husband, Mark Johnson, is a trainer down there with Good Vibes Hypnosis. You're welcome, Mark. Anyway, no. He's a good trainer. Anyway, so I'm doing training, and I'm with Lana and another gal who's also kind of mediumistic, and they're both picking up on my grandmother and my dad, and they're telling me, I know we're supposed to do this training, but your grandmother's here. And so, long story short, this, that, and the other thing was said. About half of it, I was like, okay, yeah. The other parts of it didn't make sense. One of the things that didn't make sense was that my dad was grateful that I had honored him in such a way where there was this wooden chest, and above it, I've honored him with this thing up there. I've put something up there that it just honors him, and it's like she kept saying a wooden chest. I'm thinking my cabinets, my something. I can't think of what she's talking about just for the life of me. She had the Navy thing right. And she had another thing right that I'll tell you about here in a sec. But I couldn't figure out this. Okay, all right. Just know that I said it. That's what she always says. Just know that I said it. She said the same thing about my fence but I'll tell you that in a second.
Okay.
So a lot of it kind of resonated. The rest of it I just wasn't sure about. So when I get home, I go into my living room, and in my living room is this wooden roll-top desk.
Right. And those kind of look like a chest if you were seeing that through your third eye.
And guess what I have right above it? My dad's diploma from Cleveland Chiropractic.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And it's right in my living room.
I love that.
Yeah. And I couldn't think of it in the reading, but it was right. The other thing that she said okay, so she says, do you have a fence around your yard? I'm like, yeah. Woo. Good guess.
You're so good.
Yeah, you're really good. She goes, well, there's something wrong with the fence. And I'm thinking, okay, I built that fence, and I've never had a single issue with it. And I'm not thinking that there's anything wrong with the fence. And so come to find out, 2 or 3 days later, I'm back home in Wichita.
Oh, God.
And my neighbor next door, Gary, he said, well, your board's broke on your fence, and I had to put a thing up there, and I had to get your dogs back in your yard, and you might want to, get out there and put a new board on that fence. I wasn't home a day, and there was that.
I love that she said, just know that I said it, because yeah, you can have a reading with somebody and talk all kinds of woo-woo to them, and they're like, no. And then it happens way later, and it's not like I told you so, but it's like, oh, okay, that's what I was thinking of there, or that's why I saw that, and it all starts adding up and makes sense. So I'm hoping that he resonates with everything just for like the podcast or whatever, but it wouldn't surprise me if he caught me on Instagram and was like, hey, you mentioned this, and at first I thought you was wild, but then actually this happened and it made sense to me.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
I'm open
So
to
there
that.
may be some of that. So just bear that in mind, and we'll get to. We'll have the reading, and
Right.
then the gentleman I've got coming will leave, and then we'll continue talking because I want to know more about your gift.
Okay.
I want to know about how you came into it, how old you were, because this wasn't something you had like when you were all your life. This is something that kind of came to you late in life. Kind of, maybe. You tell
Right.
me.
I mean, even as a kid, when I was a child, I experienced things that I never told my parents, but they were happening. But as you kind of grow up, you just kind of shut everything out again, or you just grow up.
How old were you when that happened?
The first couple times I was really young. I was, maybe 5, maybe 6 years old. I started like seeing things in my room at night while I was sleeping, but they weren't scary. It was just
He's here.
people.
Hey, man. Y'all come over through here, yeah. We've got a chair set up for you.
Should I ask anybody feel sick or been around anybody sick?
No.
Nope, I think we're good.
I work with the public, so I gotta be
No, I appreciate you asking.
a little extra vigilant. Hi,
Miss
it's my face.
Audrey.
Anthony.
This
Nice
is
to meet you. Yes, Anthony. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Do you go by Tony or is that Anthony?
Mom calls me Tony. Everybody else calls me.
Okay.
Is this on?
Check to see if it's on. Oh, wait. Hold on. Sorry. It's not on. It is.
1, 2, 3.
You're good, man. Do it again.
Hey there. Hello.
Do it again.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, you're good. You're on now.
Great.
Thank you for coming in.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
You two have never met,
No.
No.
but she has been telling me that she's had people around her all day about this.
About our meeting here this evening? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. People as in
You
feelings.
can move a little closer if you feel.
Well, I mean, am I within the shot? I can't tell. If I'm in the shot, I'm
You're
fine
in the
here.
shot, yeah.
Yeah, this is fine. This
Okay.
is fine. Well, I'm
Okay.
coming a little bit. How about that? I'm on the carpet.
Okay, you're on the carpet. Good. Cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so you're a psychic and a medium. This is the point of the podcast today. So, as a demonstration, I had Anthony come in to just have a reading. And then when we're done, you'll go, and then we'll continue to talk about it. But I just wanted there to be an example of this, And so I'll just let you take it from here.
Okay. Well, whenever Drew and I spoke on the phone, and he didn't mention your name to me, he didn't mention anything, he just said he had somebody in mind, and I said, well, I've got someone's dad with me here right now. So or someone's father was here, and I know his father is departed, but I wasn't sure if yours was, because I had a father energy with me all evening.
Yeah, my father passed, it's about 7.
Well, you don't have to give her a lot of information.
Yeah, my father has passed, yeah.
Okay, cool. Now, and I say this with the utmost respect to your father, but how was the relationship with your father? Because as he was talking to me, or as when I pull into readings and Spirit talks to me, I'm often you. Sorry, I need to talk closer. Like, I'm often you.
You can pull that closer to you.
If that makes any sense. So, where I was shown, I'm
First person kind of thing. Okay.
Pretty much, yeah. I wasn't a fan of how he was talking to me. It was almost like he was, that classic father-son where it's like, I want you to be this when you grow up, or I want you to take after me. Does this make sense to you at all?
Yeah, it does, actually, yeah.
Okay. And if I'm being super honest, it was borderline manipulative to me. It was almost to the point where I was like, really waking up almost to the things that he was telling me, and I was really questioning everything with like big eyes, everything that he was talking about. Does that make sense to you?
I don't. He wasn't real talkative.
Okay.
So unless he's gotten gabby in the meantime,
He may have.
He was kind of a man of few words.
Okay.
But the first part, especially. I don't know if I should. If I'm.
Go for it.
He was a high-ranking military man, and I'm the opposite. I was a kind of a punk kid and grew up. I'm his barber. I don't know if you mentioned that.
No,
I didn't want to tell anything. No.
Okay. Well, I won't give anything more than that. That's actually how we know each other. So that was the past. So we had more love than respect for each other in our relationship, and as a lot of fathers and sons do. I wasn't big into the military. He wasn't big into having a son that wasn't big into the things that he was into. So
what were some of the other things you picked up on?
Well, as I was sitting here for a little bit, somebody was playing music to me, and they were writing very beautiful poetry, but it was almost like songs. So I was asking Drew, I was like, does Anthony play music? Does he write music? Does he write songs? Is he a writer?
And I said, I think he was in a band, but I don't know. You'd have to ask him.
Yeah, I'm a musician. I don't perform live anymore. I do synthwave stuff in my basement. But I do.
Do you write?
Yeah, and I guess you'd call it. I don't write like I'm not classically trained as in do I write music? No, but do I sit down and create songs, and am I able to duplicate those songs? Yeah. But and keep harmony and pitch and melody and that kind of stuff. But I'm not like classically trained writing out guitar notes or anything.
This felt more to me like writing songs, like a songwriter almost. Does that make sense to you?
Are you seeing this within me or someone that would be in my family?
That's what I don't know, is that because I can be tapping into family, but like what he said, like psychic medium here, so I can tap into family, but I can, I
don't have a very musical family. I'm kind of the only person I know in my family that's musical.
Okay.
I'm working on some stuff that involves writing, but it's not music,
Okay.
So I don't know.
What are the things that you're writing?
I'm working on a pilot for a television show.
Oh, okay. Is it like a drama, or is it?
It would probably be classified as that. It's a kind of a broad spectrum, but you got to pigeonhole, so they'd probably put drama or adventure, perhaps.
Okay, cool. Well, as I was sitting here, now do you sing?
I'm a vocalist. I'm not a singer, but I do vocals on some of the music that I make, yes.
Okay. Because it felt like there was a lot of talent. And maybe that's where, because your father stepped in and I was being shown somebody who was a very, very gifted writer, somebody who was very gifted at writing what they were doing, and also gifted with singing. It was almost shown to me as if that person, now that we know that the music thing makes sense, was almost shy about singing or performing. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's how it looked like to
the kind
me.
of music we didn't call for singing. It was, Nine Inch Nails-y, industrial, kind of thing.
Yes.
So singing wasn't part of that, but you did have to have vocals on occasion, and some pitch shifting and effects and stuff like that
Cool.
were involved. But I would have never called myself a singer, nor have I ever tried to be a singer, to be honest. But I would have called myself, I was the vocalist for a group.
Okay. And now back to, I'm assuming this part is father's energy also. When we spoke on the phone, my head was throbbing, almost like there was a brain tumor. Not that there is a brain tumor, but like right here on the side of my head, and it came into like my eye area was hurting. And even when I first got here, I was like, this has to be for your guy because my head is throbbing. Does that make sense to you? Like where there was either neurological stuff that was happening, or any sort of brain sort of.
Not in a specific location like that, to be that specific. I mean, he passed young for his years of something that would have been called a neurological disorder, but it didn't specify a particular region or location.
Was it brain related?
Yeah, all neurological disorders are brain related. So that's where they stem from. His, again, without giving too much away, but it's interesting. There's so many different stories and directions I could go with this, but I don't want to give any of them away in case she touches in on one of them. But he passed from a neurological disorder that stemmed from most likely his military career. Yeah.
Okay.
Did it affect his, I guess, behaviors? Because it feels like I'm staring at somebody that has very, very dark circles on their eyes, and I'm assuming this is like the later, but they are just not present. They're physically there, but this person's not present. My head's throbbing as I stare at him, and he's got really dark circles, and he is just.
Now, in all fairness, the last week of my father's life, they wouldn't call him comatose because he was in and out of consciousness. But he was not really responsive or there the last week of his life.
Okay.
And the family took shifts being there with him, so there was always someone there.
Good.
And there were some things, there was a bottle of some medication that had rolled down behind his back that had apparently sat there for some time and had bruised him. And the staff didn't catch that. We weren't there to roll him. We were just there to watch him and be there. And so there were possibly some great discomforts in that last week of his life that he wasn't verbalizing to us or that we wouldn't have been aware of. Maybe there was pain in his head or whatever. And he was, like I said, he was there. He'd wake up and sometimes there'd be a few brief moments and he'd talk briefly and then kind of fade back out. So that, what he was feeling and thinking in that last week, I don't, none of us really know.
Okay. Well, the fact that the neurological thing makes sense in the brain, my brain will hurt or I will feel everywhere, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he was feeling pain. It's more so like that's his way of communicating with me that's where, just for you to kind of identify that, yes, because even now my brain's hurting, but it's almost a way for him to be like, it's connected to my brain type of energy. And then whenever I sat with it closely, I was then staring at somebody who was just not very present.
He was, again, a military man of few words, and if he was in pain, he wouldn't be one to talk about it, which was what was so hard about his final stages, is you could see that there was pain there and discomfort there, but as he put it, I don't want, this is happening, and there's no sense in burdening, anyone else with it kind of thing. So he very much carried all of that silently, to himself. So there could have, all of those things are possible. Those aren't things that were, talked about, really.
Was he religious?
To a degree, I think, but I don't come from a very religious family. We weren't standard church-going religious per se, but I believe he believed that there was a heaven and a hell and a Jesus and a,
Did it come, as later on in his life, did that increase, his religious? Did he ever talk to you about religion towards the very end?
He did not,
Okay.
and I remember that he didn't clamor and grab at it, Because often people do. Working with the public, being a barber, often people do really dial that up there towards the end. And he very much carried that, again, being a man of, this is how it is. This is
stoic.
Yeah, very stoic. He was very, very, very stoic. He cussed one time to tell me a dirty joke when I turned 18.
Nice. I love that.
It was a corny joke.
Dad jokes.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that is even being brought up now, this can be a sensitive subject, I guess, for some people, but are you a believer, I guess, in extraterrestrial type? Do you do any of those meditations where you like try and connect in with like extraterrestrial type people? I know there's an app out there that helps you like try and meditate upon extraterrestrial, but I felt like I was having an extraterrestrial type experience.
No, I'm way into that. I'm wearing a Bigfoot shirt. I don't know if that gave it away or not, but
no, I didn't even notice.
I
your
got
clothes.
crop circle tattoos.
Oh snap!
And that's actually my jam. But I don't sit around and I'm too busy, right?
I feel it, yeah.
So I don't have time to sit around and meditate about it. But I do believe that there are some genetic dispositions between humans and whatever you would call gods, aliens, extraterrestrials, or whatever. So that connection's there, whether people tap into it or not. I think that it's something that's there. I think that what we're having happen right here, right now, is actually a part of that. Squirrels aren't doing this, and dolphins aren't doing this, and chimpanzees aren't doing this. But there's something about human beings that separate us from other species on this planet that enables us to have some of these connections.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So, that's interesting then, because again, it felt like I was having. Have you felt like you've been? Because this to me, it's happening at nighttime for me, but I'm laying in my bed and it feels like I've had an extraterrestrial experience where somebody's in my room with me, or I'm either dreaming it. Do you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I do. I've had experiences. I'd rather not get into the details of those. I feel like that it would take over the show and become the centerpiece of the show. But I believe
you've had experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I told you about my experience and you never said anything.
I didn't. I don't talk about it. I was very young when it happened, but and it was
like
the orb. The orb glowing ball things that people talk about. I grew up in Nebraska, right? The heart of cornfields. Mm-hmm. My father's passed now, so I don't want to speak on his behalf. But when I did get a little older and got into this, and some of the books and stuff I had acquired, it triggered a conversation between him and I was quite shocked at what he was privy to and had been involved in and was aware of and knew about. And in a way, his involvement through his career with some of these things tied into, I believe, later on, these orbs that I was seeing in our pasture out surrounded by these cornfields in Nebraska. That later on, with about 2 to 3 years within seeing of these orbs, crop circles, in fact, did start popping up in these surrounding fields near Columbus, Nebraska.
Wow.
It was blamed on local kids and whatnot, but no one was ever apprehended or caught. That's just who they blamed it on. But we had three-wheelers, and I would go ride out in the pasture by myself quite a bit. And there was orbs out there that I would see and that would follow me. And I remember at one point trying to talk to I think it was either a sister or a neighbor out there about it, and they were trying to tell me that I was just seeing the sun through the trees. Whoops. And that's what I was seeing. And it seemed to kind of maybe make sense. I'm a city kid most of the time, and here I am in the summers out here. So I remember one time in particular, seeing the sun on one side of me, and the orb was clearly on the other side of me. And I didn't wear glasses at that time. It wasn't a reflection in my glasses or anything.
Yeah.
And there were these, and they would almost seem to like wait in the forest. Now, I didn't know that they were extraterrestrial at the time. I didn't know that they were tied to my father's work at the time.
Right.
I didn't know that there would be crop circles later. It wasn't until years later that the puzzle pieces in retrospect kind of fell into place. And I learned more about it.
When you have an experience, you don't know how to interpret it, and years later it ticks at you, and you go and start investigating, especially in the age of information that we grew up or came to know later in life. There is that opportunity to go in and dig in and find out more, and you realize, oh, wait a minute, other people see orbs, or there's some commonality from your experience and other people's experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I don't mean to take, but this very crop circle tattoo is a reoccurring crop circle in Worcester, England, every 50 years like clockwork, and it's been going on for 2,000 years. Now, this is the centerpiece of the world's cereal crops, and we're one of the only species that this is a centerpiece of our diet, and even the meats that we eat these grains. And it's interesting because dolphins are still dolphins and monkeys are still monkeys, and that's often an argument for evolution, that if things are evolving, then why are monkeys still monkeys? Oh, monkeys aren't eating cornflakes, monkeys aren't eating breads, right? Monkeys aren't, and bread is even woven into our religious text, right? It's programmed into us, and I believe that this is where the genetic manipulation for our own evolution comes from and has came from. And I think that it comes from, genetic manipulation of the cereal crops through gods, aliens, whatever you want to call it. But interestingly enough, they've proven that there are quantum level adjustments and alterations within these crop circles. They go in, they can do the testing and electromagnetic testing, radiation testing.
That is a deep well.
There's something going on. And they still harvest those crops, right? Like when National Geographic's helicopter flies away and everybody packs up and goes home, they still harvest that crop, and those seeds are then circulated into the surrounding fields. And within about 50 years, all of the genetic mutations that happened in that one crop are now in that entire, often continent.
Well, it's an interesting theory. I've never heard that one. With that those crop circles were used to spread genetic mutations
in part of our evolution. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to interrupt.
Boy, that was a left turn.
Yeah, it was a left turn.
Right.
But are you getting anything else?
Well, I wanted to ask one more thing, because I don't know if your dad had experienced this, or maybe it was you, but back to the whole experience with extraterrestrial, did he ever mention like him having an experience? Like sometimes people, when they have those, they get rashes or they get like marks in their bodies that they've never seen before. Does that make sense to you at all now?
No, I think that he was just aware of I think that he, through his job and his position, I think that he had maybe heard some things, seen some things, or been privy to some things. He was pretty high ranking, and didn't think I was crazy for, talking about it, researching it, having opinions on it. And keep in mind, this is Ancient Aliens and Joe Rogan and cell phones, right? Like this is back when you had to go to the store and look up the Zachariah Stitchin books and look up, Genesis Revisited and the True Face of God, and even know what to look for back then. And then it ended up just turning into a parlor trick. Most of the time your friends would get drunk and be like, dude, tell everybody that thing about aliens screwing monkeys and making cavemen, right? And you're like, no, that's not how it went, but whatever. But people weren't taking it seriously back then.
No, why would you?
But insert Ancient Aliens, and now look at us here now. And there will be thousands of people that listen to this broadcast. I assume thousands eventually that listen to this that wouldn't bat an eye at the thought of there being extraterrestrial life. Like we've taken it as pretty commonplace.
Well, you've had a personal experience with it, so you're going to take it, in a different. You're going to take it more seriously in a way that friends who just think that's a cool story.
Well, and I've met people like you and several other people.
Mine was very isolated, and it was.
Yours was like what she had described. In the room.
Yeah, in the room. Yeah.
Yeah, in the room, and the kind of in your brain.
Yeah, it was. It's interesting. It was. I'd never thought about aliens. I always dismissed alien stuff. Once you start reading something on the internet, and then it turns to aliens. I'm like,
Yeah.
And because it happens a lot, especially under conspiracy theories, always seem to find their way back around.
They do kind of hook back around, right?
It's like, you had me until you said it.
Right, yeah, it's funny. Yeah, they all kind of end there, don't they?
Yeah, somehow. Yeah. And it always, I've never had it, just never gave it any credence, because if there was proof, I would have seen it maybe, but it was, I don't know, but okay, so. Then I just take a trip to Austin, Texas. I've got a meeting in the morning. I get there late. I'd listen to an audiobook all the way down there called Proof of Heaven.
Haven't heard it.
Oh, man, it was light.
Is it about aliens?
No, it was about Proof of Heaven.
Okay.
Dr. Evan Alexander.
Nail biter.
It was a near-death experience. He's a neurologist, a brain surgeon who
remember you telling
had
me
gone
about
into
that,
a coma because of some sort of brain infection. Anyway, has this experience. It's an odyssey of sorts. It kind of experienced some things that turned out to be true later. He saw a sister of his that he was adopted, so he had a sister that he never knew about that he saw in the experience, and circumstance later, he gets a picture of her, and it's the girl that took him on the tour.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Huh.
Yeah, but only he would know that. I mean, it's, so I listen to this audiobook. I get down to Austin. I've got a meeting at 9. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I just plug my phone in, grab my pillow, and go to sleep. Lights out, doors locked. I wake up in the middle of the night, just open my eyes, and like right here next to my face is a classic blue alien head, eyes, little tiny nose, button nose, little tiny mouth, teardrop.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Right. He's right on the edge of the description and then knocks the thing. Her chair falls over and the tree lands on her.
So he's looking down into my chest. He's looking down into my chest, and there's this luminescent blue-green energy or something that's just like smoke coming out of my chest, and he's breathing it in.
That's so bizarre. Now, how did this end? Did he walk out of the room? Did you fall back asleep? How did you? What was the conclusion?
So I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, dude, you're really close to my face, because he's just like right here. And I don't know if he's standing. I don't know if he's kneeling. I have no idea. I don't see the rest of his body, but his body glowed blue, like that, like this, like that blue. And it was luminant. The room was dark, so he's glowing from within. And he turns to me. He notices me noticing him, and when he did, I caught that right eyeball, and he's somehow I was thinking, wow, that is a really black eye. And before I could really finish that thought, I was like paralyzed or something. I was just.
It froze you.
It froze me. Come to find out, that's a trait.
Yeah. Was the eye contact seemingly associated with that? Like it locked eyes with you?
So I was just noticing how dark the eyes were, and just as I was having that thought, I didn't pause, and I started getting this. It was information about an author of another book, and how this author is kind of not a great person, and how insane they are, and how depraved they are, and the things that they write about.
Now, is this an author that you had opinions of previously?
I had listened to recently, and I don't want to really say who the author was
but did you have any preconceived notions of this person? Or
I didn't really have any preconceived notions, but I would not have guessed this. The insanity, the depression,
That's wild.
It was just kind of messed. It just kind of, I was like, oh, that's such a bad feeling. Like,
of all things for the message to be like,
I know.
You'd think it'd be like, here's the key to mankind, or you have prostate cancer, get that looked at.
Okay.
But no, it's hey, there's a real shit author out there. You need to don't buy his books.
I knew the author that he was talking about.
Yeah.
And I could even sense the whole face down to the hair on his chin, without actually seeing the face. So
maybe there's a more sinister message behind who this author is.
I don't know what the sinister message would be. I'm just saying, so there he is. We're in this thing. I'm in this eye lock. I mean, the feeling of being insane is freaking me out. And then he like lets go of me or something, because I just come out of that just like screaming, and I just get up and I flip a light on. He didn't like run out. I didn't see him. I never saw him after this eye contact. He wasn't in the room. And
had you purchased any coffee or unsealed goods while in Austin? That's a very trippy city. I'm just being honest. Like, I wouldn't put it past a kid at a Starbucks to put put some shrooms and some coffee or something
on the way down. But,
yeah, no, and I'm not saying, because I believe in aliens.
No, this wasn't a trip. I would have been tripping after I turned the light on, but I wasn't. I was just scared shitless, And so I'm sitting there like, what was that? What was that? Oh my God. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know what to do. And I calm myself down. I start praying. and I'm just like,
would it possibly be a haunting? Or it was an alien?
This was an alien.
An alien. That's wild.
Not a ghost.
Because they've been seen like that, and they have the paralysis and the floating there. It's the message that's so bizarre. Floating. Well, you don't know if he was floating. You didn't see the bottom.
I didn't see the bottom. He was either standing or kneeling next to the bed.
How tall do you think it was? Was it looming, or was he just kind of there?
I'm laying down flat, like, my head's on the pillow, laying flat, like this is, and then he's right here.
Well, so he wasn't that tall, unless he was.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I honestly, he could have had short little legs and been standing there. I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, it's your podcast. What do you think about all of this?
I mean, I've had an experience myself before that I woke back up from, and I was covered in hives, and like my ears were.
Oh my God!
So
Were you at home in your own?
Yeah, I was at home in my bed. And
same fabric softener you always use?
I never saw anything like they weren't glowing blue or like coming in with guns or anything like that. But
anyone else say that they had glowing blue aliens? I've
heard of self-luminating. I've heard of that.
Okay.
I've heard of them illuminating or having a luminescence about them. And I've heard of them coming in everything from a weird grayish blue all the way through to the green and gray.
I've dug and dug and dug trying to find glowing aliens. I've seen them. I've heard someone write about them glowing green, and I've seen them depicted as blue, but I've never heard anyone describe that. That part of it was unique to me, and the luminescence was unique.
What your situation what would make you link it to aliens then, since you didn't necessarily see
just a little closer,
since you didn't necessarily see one?
Well, I've had dynamic experiences. Like when I first started giving readings for people, I had, dynamic type figures standing
dynamic?
Very, very scary.
Demon.
She means
type.
Demonic.
Sorry, my language.
That's adorable.
Thank you so much.
That is the most adorable thing I've heard all day.
I
from here now will call it dynamic. I don't care. That is what I will call it.
We can call it whatever.
You need to write a book, and that's the title of the book.
Yeah, I started it today.
I like it. I think it's cool.
You.
I really do like it.
No, I've had those very like scary figure type things that sat on my chest that have, called my name from across the room, and I would like look at them and they then come straight. So
that's creepy.
I've had those experiences plenty of times,
but not alien.
But not that.
Okay.
So this was different to me because I wasn't scared when they first came into my room. It was just like a big glowing light, and I just seen like people. It was multiple of them like shuffling into my room, but I was frozen, so I couldn't see. I could just like in my peripheral like just look this way.
So you weren't alone. Yeah.
No, but there was like shuffling, like 3 or 4, like, and then I was just gone. And then I woke up and I had called my coach at the time, and I was like, bitch, something happened to me. But I don't know if I was dreaming.
The hives, how long did those last? What was that all about, do you think?
They lasted only for a couple of days. And I went to the doctor after never having any allergies to anything like that.
Had that never happened to you before? You had never broken?
No,
never. So it wasn't like a stress thing or anything?
I have pictures of it on my phone to this day because I took a bunch of pictures. My sister's a nurse, and I was like, what?
You carry your phone in your boot. That is so punk rock.
Isn't it
adorable?
It's
adorable.
All right.
But yeah, I was covered everywhere. I was covered in hives the next morning. So it was,
Are you done with the reading?
I think so. We got off way topic, but
Boy, we
it's
sure
nice
did.
to know that your dad came forward, that he has neurological issues that I picked up on. Even as I say it, my brain still. And he knows that we are down for aliens, and that the whole conversation.
And you two tapped into the alien thing, and I didn't have there would have really been no reason for you to know that. And I'm not in a huge rush if you had any more questions, or I can cut
I've
out.
got a whole thing I want to cover.
Oh, you got a lot to still go over.
Yeah, I want to go back in her background about when she became something.
I'm anxious to hear this episode.
Cool.
Actually, keep me in the loop. Thank you so much for having me.
It was so great
Take
to
care.
meet
It's
you.
nice to meet you.
Yes.
I would shake hands, but given the circumstances,
Yeah, pandemic. We'll
stay safe out there, you guys.
Yeah, same.
I'm gonna turn this off.
Yeah, just turn it off. Cool. Right on. Thank you for having me. All right. Thanks.
It's great to meet you,
We'll
Anthony.
see you. Take care.
That was hilarious.
Oh yeah. So demonic but not alien.
Yeah, those I've had several experiences with.
Yeah.
To where, but that one time it was not that. It was way different.
Well, I know that one of the things that I wanted to cover with regard to you, your background, your gift, was to go into more of an explanation about how you kind of came into all of this and how you led a pretty normal life.
Right.
Prior to all this, and that you were in the process of trying to get healthy to have a baby.
Yes.
And you're not a Wiccan.
No.
Right. You're not a witch. You're not a, because so many people think that mediums and psychics, they're dabbling in the devil and.
Oh yeah, but even if there was one God, there's 7 billion people now on the planet. He speaks multiple languages. He speaks to everybody, and it all means the same thing. Is what I tell people when they see me live and when I work. I'm like, if you like your God, your magic pony, whoever it is that you pray and seek your love and guidance through, that's who I talk to.
Yeah, exactly, and so I guess the point of it is that you weren't really looking. You've had some experiences when you were younger, you said.
Right, I did.
You weren't looking for this.
No.
You weren't trying to open this door. You were actually in the process of losing a lot of weight.
Yes.
So just kind of tell me, then when did you start to notice this? So what were you doing, and how did it come to you, and when did you okay, this is weird?
Right. So I guess it all kind of started when I was pregnant. I mean, I had already lost a bunch of weight. So I am a gastric bypass patient. I had lost about 200 pounds. And then...
Congratulations.
Thank you. Then I got pregnant with my daughter. Uh-huh. And it all started for me as I have had 2 cesareans previously, and I had the worst postpartum with my cesareans, and told myself I never wanted to have another baby, and I also never wanted to have another C-section again, because for me they were terrible. So I was working toward a home birth the whole time. So I was extremely healthy, so strict with my diet. I was taking vitamins nonstop. I was juicing. I was doing all the things to be super healthy hippie woman. That's what I was doing.
Right.
And I was attending prenatal yoga classes twice a week.
Prenatal yoga?
Yes, prenatal yoga, which yoga is a spiritual
It is,
thing.
but you don't know that.
But at the time, I didn't. At the time, I was just doing it to stretch. I was trying to prepare my body for labor, when really the Holy Spirit was like, you're preparing yourself to talk to dead people.
You're friends with my daughter, Kara.
Yes.
That's how I met you.
Yes.
Through my daughter, Kara.
Oh.
And I remember, I know, she's a dear.
Well, and Kara even came to photograph one of my births for me, and I had to kick her out of the hospital because it was so bad. She couldn't even come in.
Why?
Because I was getting called for a cesarean, and I was just in so much pain, and she was there to photograph her first birth with me, and I had to turn her away.
Well, one of the things I was just going to say is that about the yoga is that I asked Kara one time, what is it that just makes you just come alive inside? What is it that you do? Is it like drawing? For me, it's drawing. What is it that you do that just makes you come alive inside? And she said, yoga.
Wow.
You didn't probably know that.
I didn't know that about her. That's awesome. Now I love her even more.
So I was like, really? But then I didn't really know it at the time that she told me that yoga is a path.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is necessarily. draws energy in or something like that,
It's
or opens you up, or
the mind, body, and
I don't know what
spirit,
it
having
is.
all of them connected to where you can move your body, control your breathing. It's a form of meditation.
Yeah.
And even in my prenatal yoga classes, we would have a moment of meditation at the very end of both of them that I would then go home and practice. So I was trying to prepare for a home birth as I'm doing all of these very holistic, very healthy things, trying to get my mind ready, getting my body ready. I was trying to get ready for this. And then it didn't happen. So my midwife was going to be dropping by my birth pool at my home like the next day. And the day before she was coming, my water broke that morning. So I ended up having to have another cesarean. My daughter was in NICU.
Oh, wow.
And it was so awful because, you know, that's what I was working for this whole time. And it was
to have a natural birth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was that, I felt like it was that almost that trauma where you have to surrender to your pain. You have to surrender to the process of what you're going through. Wow. That's what, oh, my ears just popped. That's what triggered it for me was whenever I was really upset. And, you know, everybody has moments in life when they're angry with God. Everybody has moments when they're angry with just even being alive. And it sounds really like, oh, you didn't get your birth, poor you. It sounds to some people,
But
I'm
wait
sure.
a minute, you had lost 200 pounds
Right.
to have this experience.
Right. I worked my ass off for this. And I had gone through, I mean, I had weight loss surgery by myself in another country in Mexico. I went there and I did this. So I felt like I had jumped through hoops of fire to have it.
Right.
And I didn't get it. And I was mad about it. And
Okay, that's understandable. I mean, that's
Right.
understandable. Nobody would say boo-hoo. I don't think they don't know your story if they would say that.
Yeah. And I mean, I was more, and not so much mad that I didn't get the home birth, but it's so just as a human being, a woman, when you have a baby and you don't get to immediately hold your child or you don't get to bring that baby home with you. My daughter spent, you know, over a week in NICU and my sons couldn't go there. And so
You couldn't even go in to hold her?
no, they weren't allowed in. And so
I don't know if they do that anymore.
things may have changed. Like now you can, there's cameras that you can watch your baby from upstairs in your room.
But
But
the baby needs to know you're there. That's the thing.
and now, yeah. And so I'm very, I mean, all mothers are, but I'm a double Scorpio mom. So I'm just very, very intense with my babies. And so my instincts were on fire. And I was like, I have to be there. So I spent the whole time there. I'm pissed off that why the hell is all this happening? Why is all this happening?
Okay.
And finally, I'm at home with my baby. She's about a month old, almost a month old, maybe about 2 weeks old. And finally, I was still at home angry about how all this happened. Like, how did all this happen? You know, even just financially, I work for myself and I was planning all these ways to, you know, I had income coming in for the next couple of weeks and then I was going to stop working. That didn't happen. So all of this stuff had snowballed. I'm upset. And then one day you're just not. And when that moment happened where I was like, I can't be mad anymore. I can't mother like this anymore. I can't live here. And like, this is everything I've ever prayed for. This is everything I've ever wanted. And I'm sitting here mad because it didn't happen the way I wanted it to.
Right.
And it was in that moment when suddenly everything changed. Like my whole body, I was having symptoms of ascension that I didn't even know was a thing. I had
Symptoms of what?
Ascension.
What's that?
Like when you are ascending into, like, I would say, you know, there's dimensions of living or like levels, like where you go from living in 3D land where everything just kind of, you're just going with emotions and yeah, there's a God, but like, what's he doing? And you're just living your life and you're just going hard at whatever you want. And then suddenly you're awake and then
You're connected.
You are connected to God and you are connected to the Holy Spirit and you are connected to all things.
Yeah.
And every moment in your life thus far has led to you. Just one of those moments.
One of those moments,
when you wake up from being an asleep human to now you're awake and you start having symptoms of it. Your body's tingles, you get pricks, you have, you know, you touch a light and the light bulb bursts and you have, you know, very vivid, almost future telling type dreams. Like I had a dream that that happened and the next day it does happen. And so I was having all of these symptoms and I started learning about what all those things mean, and my mind was just blown. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm having those symptoms. That's happening to me. That's also happening to me. Then this was all happening on my postpartum, and I start taking clients again. So I'm a photographer too.
You're a photographer, yeah.
So I'm in sessions with people all while I'm having these symptoms and I'm feeling these things. And between all the clairs that I use, my vision is the one that I use most. That's my strongest.
Well, wait a minute. Okay, so you're having, you went from having a baby to all my clairs. And
right, my clairs and my chakras, yeah. So it happens so quickly.
so I just kind of want people to get an understanding of like, were you okay? So you kind of felt you had this ascension moment, you call it.
Yeah.
Okay, and you felt connected to things.
Yes.
And you let this whole pissed off thing go.
Yeah.
Okay, so at what point during that thing did some of these psychic abilities start coming in?
That's when I would be in sessions with people.
Okay.
I would be photographing my clients.
Okay, you were just getting ready to tell me.
Yeah.
But
you're good. No, you're good.
Okay, keep going.
I'm in a session with a client and I pull my camera up to my face and I'm seeing things inside my camera lens, and I put my camera down and nothing's there, and I put my camera back up and it's like watching just lights and people dance around in my camera, and I was like, I gotta go home and sit down. This is not okay.
This is just an SLR lens, right? It's a
my Nikon D750 is what I use.
This isn't a digital process.
No.
It's just light coming into the lens up to the view.
Yeah. So then that stuff started happening to me, and it made me very aware that the things that I was seeing, the things that I would be shown as even just talking with these people, and the things that I would know, there's no reason for me to know these things. There's no reason that I'm seeing these things. And at first I thought that I was hella crazy. I was looking at postpartum schizophrenia. I can't tell you how many times I've Googled that and how many times my anxiety has led me down plenty of roads.
Right. And you're like, okay, I'm going nuts.
That don't make sense. So
and it's never been like this. Like,
no,
you've had
never.
earlier experiences, but it's never been like this.
No, never.
Yeah.
So I have a moment where I'm like, am I crazy? Am I ruining my family? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And so I prayed super hard about it, and I was like, I need you to tell me what this means. And I couldn't think about it anymore. I was going stir crazy. And so I took my kids to the park with me, and we walked to our neighborhood park, and I started seeing all the stuff again. And I was like, okay, something's going to happen. Like, something's going to happen.
Now, what were you seeing?
I get shown things. So it's so difficult for me to explain because I see it many different ways. So sometimes I visibly see it in my peripherals. I'll see the grandmother showing me her little gold jewelry that her daughter has, or I'll get shown like, the tattoos that they have, and I can just talk about them because I'm seeing them, and I'm like, well, I'm getting shown this, and it's easy.
So you can see it. You can see it clearly in your peripheral vision. Can you focus in on it while not looking at someone directly in the eye? You can focus on this peripheral image?
Well, sometimes yes, and then sometimes no. It just depends. So some people, when they've been deceased for a long time, can come through so strongly for me that it just happens. And sometimes for people who have just crossed over, it takes a little bit of time for me to work through just some energy. And it's often a human thing too. Like if I'm having an off day, or if I'm really tired, or if I have had 30 cups of coffee in one day, that sometimes affects me too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I get shown in my peripherals. So on my way to the park, I'm getting shown all these things. I know that someone's with me. Something's going to happen. And my kids are playing, and all of a sudden, a man walks up to the park with his kids, and they're playing, and I kept hearing, that's my mom, that's my mom. And I was like, now I know I'm crazy because that's a man. And I hear, that's my mom, they're not making any sense. And we eventually, my kids and their kids are playing.
Who's saying that's my mom?
It was this person's twins that were with me at the park that day. And this man was actually trans. So I learned this at the park that day. And
that's my mom.
That's my mom. So I'm thinking, I know I'm crazy. I'm schizophrenic because this is a man.
But you don't know it's a trans man.
It's a trans man.
Okay.
So I decided to leap of faith here. I'm like, if I'm crazy today at the park, then so be it. It's going to make a great status for Twitter. Like, they'll tell everybody all about it. I'm fine with being that person. So I'm just like, so can I ask you a weird question? I'm a medium, and
Did you really think you were?
I stepped out on faith.
Okay.
And I said it. And because I had been looking up all these symptoms. So I'm either schizophrenic or I'm a medium, and there's no in between. That's
right. Yeah.
That's how intense I made it. So I just stepped out on faith. I told this person, and I even have pictures of everything that I said on my phone. But
oh, wow.
I was like, I have these 2 babies with me, and I don't know why. And he was like, oh, that's funny. You say that because you're not the first medium that's told me that. My kids come to me all the time. You know, this was 20 years ago, but I've had, gender surgery. I was a woman back at that time. And I had twins. And I had twins, and they both passed away. And
oh my God.
I said, and they're showing me these dove tattoos. Like, I'm seeing these dove. And he rolled up his sleeve, and he was like, yeah. And he showed me the dove tattoo
tattoos?
On his arm.
And you're like, I'm a medium.
I'm crapping myself at the park, just completely blown away that I'm seeing all of this
Oh,
stuff.
you're
This
seeing
is the
it
very
all.
first time that I've ever openly said anything to anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing all these seeds. Like, I'm seeing balloons, but they're like, no balloons, just seeds. And he was like, yeah. Every year on their birthday, I plant seeds for them because I'm very environmentally conscious. I don't like releasing balloons in the air for them on their birthdays. I plant seeds. And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. She's like, yeah, so no balloons, seeds. They're 100% right. And
yeah.
so the conversation goes further and further, and it was just confirmation for me at the time, like just what I needed to hear. Like, no, you're not crazy. How the hell would I ever approach a person and know that they had babies with them? And
no, you can't.
I can't.
You can't.
You can't make it up.
You can't. Right, unless you're just making up the whole story.
Right, no, and see, hand to God, I can show you. Like I said, I even asked him, I was like, hey,
No,
look,
I
I know
know
this
it's
is crazy.
real.
Can I take a picture of this just so I can remember this moment?
I've seen you. I've seen your work. You have this amazing ability because you don't even have to know. They just show up on this little screen like, okay, I'm next. It's like a little feed on your live broadcast, and they chime in and they just send you this little text through the messenger. I want one. You don't know them from Adam, but you read them spot on. That's what's so bizarre.
And I
You
love
don't
it.
know them.
No.
You don't know who they are. You don't know what their face looks like. They're not there with you. They could be in China.
Right.
And you're gonna read them. You're gonna get the information. It's just like I'm sitting in my garage talking to you on the phone, and I'm thinking about this guy I'm gonna bring in, and you're already, picking up on his dad.
His dad's
How
here.
does his dad know I'm talking to you about his son?
The Holy Spirit, I'm telling you.
Right, exactly.
I get in the right place at the right time way too much in my life to where I know that it's not a coincidence that I'm talking to the right person.
No. It's so there. It's the thing. I mean, the dove tattoos. The this is my mom. This is my mom, and I mean, you. In a million years, you can't even begin to guess these things.
And so it had me so excited that I'm like, oh my God, everybody, but I'm still so naive to this that I'm not aware that almost everybody and their dad's a medium. Everybody and their dad has, which is I think to some extent true. I tell people all the time that if I can do this, you can do this.
The definition of a medium I read recently is the consistency of the information.
That's very true.
Okay. And not only is it the consistency, but it's the on-demand aspect of it. A lot of people are psychic. A lot of people can get psychic information. I've had psychic experiences. There was like a 3-month period in 2014 that I was going through that. It went away. Maybe it'll come back.
But it was your ascension. Like you woke up at that time.
Oh, I was waking up big time.
Oh yeah, and you grew spiritually,
Oh,
so
big
you
time.
became even more connected. You may not have had those same experiences, but that doesn't mean it's the very end of it, and it won't be. It'll just continue to grow itself, and when you're ready at the right time.
Yeah, right. When I'm ready, because I don't think I'm ready or something. Because I'm about as thick as a board right now. I mean, I can't. I'm not getting anything these days, so I'm not even getting poked like I used to.
But I think that kind of happens because, I was super excited about it, told everybody, everybody that was coming to me, I was like, this is what I've been doing. This is what I do. Thinking that everybody else would be super excited too. And they'd be like, go girl, you do it, you kill it. And instead I scared everybody. Not everybody, but I scared a lot of people to where not to say that you shut yourself out for these same reasons, but I even started like, okay, I shouldn't talk about this. I'm going to pull back a little bit. I don't want to say nothing. I don't want to say nothing because I was thrown plenty of stones by even family.
Okay, let's talk about that because, so you discover this gift within.
Right.
And I'm sure within days or that day you had another one and another one and another one.
Yeah.
It's like it just never stopped really.
Right.
Probably hasn't stopped since.
Never. It doesn't go away. I'm in my car driving and someone's dad's playing me music. I'm like, okay, you need to stop. I'm trying to concentrate, please. But yeah, my grandma, this is her rosary. My grandma was extremely intuitive. She did palm readings for people and she just knew things and freaked people out. Like back then at that time, you don't talk about that kind of stuff. You just, if you know something, you say it. But my family knew how my grandma was, and even then they called her the Hungarian gypsy is what they used to tease her about. And they knew what she did, and so whenever it came to be, she passed, now here I am like woo 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 woo, and I thought everybody would be super excited about it. And the day I told my dad what I was experiencing, I'm like, yeah, grandma wants me to have her rosary. She's showing it to me. And he was like, how do you even know that that's here? Because I told him like where it was, like in the house, like, yeah, it's downstairs in that little box down there. Like, I don't go in my dad's basement. Freaked him out to where it was almost like, that's the devil's work. Well, he gave it to me, but he was like, this is the devil that you're talking to.
Oh, yeah. You see, I'm so sorry that you experienced that.
It's okay because I just went to his
But you
Legion.
know better. You know better. So when you hear that, you're like, I know, Dad. You think so. But
and
that's not right.
Yeah.
And I don't, you probably don't even blame him for going there.
Oh, no. I mean, I know that. I mean, even just hearing somebody say that, you're probably like, honey, you need to sit down and no more Mountain Dew. Like, you stop. You just sit down.
Yeah. So many Red Bulls, honey.
Right. So you hear that stuff from somebody and you're like, I'm sure you do. And you tried your best. And you can just sit down.
You tried your best. But maybe you need a nap.
But maybe you need to just not tell anybody else and just keep it to yourself.
I wouldn't share that.
So yeah, it left me confused for a long time, but yeah, you get confused and you doubt yourself, but then you get shown time and time and time again that, oh, it's actually real. Even now, I doubt myself occasionally all the time.
Yeah, you're you do, but then it comes through.
And then it comes through, and you're like, oh, okay, it's okay. I'm still not crazy. I mean, I might be a little crazy, but I'm not crazy.
Yeah. You have a hard time reading yourself.
Occasionally, I get stumped a little bit because you can tell somebody like, oh, that's, woo-woo or whatever, where some people are like, this is 444. That means the universe said that to me. So, or that says 111, or that says 666, so that's bad. Or, some people will find pennies on the ground and they're like, oh, snap, my dad's here. And they just, do you know what I mean?
I do. I know people like that.
So,
and I'm not even saying that's not a thing, because I think that could be a thing. But
it very much is a thing, to where almost it can be an unhealthy thing, to where you're constantly Googling, like, what does this mean? Or what does this mean? Or what does this mean? Versus, does not that you have to discredit all those things, but it's been a journey for even myself to where I have to be like, okay, how does this feel? What does this feel like for me? So I can read other people, not very easily, because there's some people that I don't read as easily as others. But that's only happened to me one time in the years that I've been doing it. But for myself, when I read for myself, sometimes it's difficult to know, like, okay, what's messages for me and what's my anxiety telling me to Google if I'm having a heart attack? Like, what does this mean?
Well, you had a lot of questions about your business early on, about how to move from photography into being a medium.
Yes.
And we had a session a couple years ago. Was it 2 years? I don't know. Year and a half, 2 years ago. And in the session, I did hypnosis for you.
Right.
We put you in hypnosis. And in that state of mind, you got a lot of information.
Right.
About yourself, about your gift, about what to do, about this and the other thing.
And it's that when I first...
Do you remember that?
I do. I do. I totally do. And...
What was that like being in hypnosis? Was that like it is when you're waking, or was it enhanced in some way? What was...
It was enhanced to some degree. Again, it was almost like I was reading for somebody else, but it was for me.
It was for you.
Yeah. So it was different. But when you go into, they say, meditate. And how often does anybody really meditate? Like,
I don't know.
Religiously.
I have a really hard time getting myself to do it.
Same. Even me. Like,
Yeah.
And I know that's what our hypnosis session together was me forcing myself to, like, pay attention to what is being shown to me.
Yeah.
And when I read for people one-on-one, like when they have a private appointment with me, I go to a place for that to happen. To just, I would say in my mind, but Spirit knows where to take me, where I feel safe, where I feel comfortable, where I can, like, visibly, all my clairs are activated. This is where I go. And that's where I went whenever I was under hypnosis. So it was very comfortable for me to be there. I understood, and I was shown,
significant things for yourself.
Right. And when I meditate for myself, there's a difference between meditating to clear your mind versus getting information. So I don't feel like it's fair for me to constantly put myself into a meditation where I'm getting information, but I'm not practicing the art of meditation where you're relaxing your mind that's constantly a monkey,
How do you calm yourself? Like, how do you just turn it off? How do you escape? Or do you need an escape? Is it intrusive? Is it maddening? Can you just turn it off?
I can't turn it off. No, I cannot. And at the times when I've tried, there was one time when I had the flu and was sick in bed, and I had someone's father with me, and this story was what made me never want to turn it off, and no matter how sick I am, because I was sick and I was, being a baby. I can be a baby when I'm sick. I don't feel good. And I had someone's dad with me, and I was like, I don't care. Like, go away. I don't want anybody here right now. I don't want to talk to any. I was in a terrible mood. Ended up being my best friend's dad who had just passed. And ouchie. Right? I was like, Lord, forgive me. Like, just, I felt so bad.
You didn't know it at the time, but your friend then said, my dad passed. And you're like, oh, this is the guy I just bitched out.
Right. I was just like, I don't want to hear about it. Like, just talk to me about it when I'm not sick. Like, I don't. And so it was then where I was like, I have to turn. I don't want to ever do that. I don't want to turn somebody away. And it helped me, though, to a point where whenever I'm with people, I'm not afraid to say something to them anymore.
Well, I don't think anyone would blame you for the fact that you cannot turn this off. You can't close the door and then, like, veg on TV and get away from everybody and everything. And
right. And
you can veg on TV, but it's still going to be there.
It doesn't go away. Yeah. And it's to the point now where the language is so common in my house where my husband is so used to me being a medium that I'll be like, honey, I've got someone's mom with me right now and I don't know who or why. And he's like, well, are you going somewhere? Do you need to go somewhere? Check your phone. Did someone call you? Is someone texting you? Because Spirit comes to me and I'll know before I even talk to the person. Like Anthony's dad was with me in the car before I even knew who he was. Like we just met and his dad was with me and I could have been like, go away, and just super angry with his dad and not received anything from that. But yeah, it definitely doesn't go away. And it's just my new normal now where it's just, oh, I've got someone's dad with me, but there was something I wanted to go do. I'm going to go see. And yeah, I get led to places and I bump into the right people at the right time and have those right conversations, and it just works.
Yeah. Cool. So you get used to it. You start to get used to it.
Right.
You start doing it. But then, like your father, like other people, what happens? People attack you in a way. They attack your gift.
Right.
And
Yeah, and even whenever, because my lives on Facebook are probably my more popular ones that I do private appointments, but my lives on Facebook are really popular.
Yeah.
And I still have people that pop in and they're like, tell me what I'm going to be, psychic. Or they see my face and they're like, either they call me names or they just are super rude. Yes.
Oh, that's not something we see, though, is it?
I mean,
or is it? Is that the same? You're seeing the same feed we see?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can see what they're saying.
Oh, I don't. I know. I've never seen a bad comment because I've sat through many waiting for a reading, and and I've never seen a negative thing.
Well, maybe in my private group, I'm selective on who I place into my private group. So I read in my private group every Thursday.
Well, I do that. That's the one.
Yeah.
I'm in there.
But when I read on my page, like on the public page, where people who are on Facebook Watch can see what's live.
Yeah.
Anybody. I've read for people in Egypt. I've read for people in South America. Like anybody from all over the world can access that.
Isn't that crazy?
And it's exciting for me to like, oh my gosh, you're from India, girl. Oh my God. And I just get so excited. I'm like, I cannot believe that I'm with somebody in India right now. It's amazing to me. And then someone trolls in and they're like, just all kinds of comments, nasty comments, rude comments, just people but yeah, until you're ready for it, that's what they'll say. And I'm sure that for someone who has no understanding or knowledge of it, they just see somebody on Facebook, being wild, and they're just like, fake. I get it.
But what about like friends and family? I mean, have you been, I mean, I know that if certain people came to me that I know that I'm friends with and just said, the subjects of these podcasts, that's really not glorifying Jesus, because of this, that, or the other thing that they believe, and it would hurt me. It would probably make me feel yucky. I don't think there's anything I could do about it, but I think I'd be pretty disappointed, not in myself, but just that there has to be that separation almost. I mean, has that happened? Has that hurt you in a way?
It was at first. I was like, this has to be, again, when you don't read for yourself very well and you tune into everything being a sign, which it is, everything has a reason. But I was like, this is a sign that I shouldn't be doing this and whoop-de-woo. And I had a family member come in and he's like, no, that's a sign that you're making it whenever you've got all those people like trolling you and trying to peck you down. And there's a saying out there that's like, the eagles, when they fly, ravens come and they peck at their necks to try and like either get their food or they want something from them, but they'll peck at the eagles, and the eagle doesn't fight them off. They just fly even higher and the ravens just fall away. And when I heard that saying, I was like, I've been shown time and time again what I'm doing I feel like is for me, and if I'm shown that these people aren't for me, I just need to keep going. But at first it did bother me when you've been raised to believe a certain thing, not that they've been brainwashed by any means, but when you believe full-heartedly into one thing, when someone comes at you with something completely off the wall, I don't blame them for being freaked out or for being like, no, that's the devil, because that's what they've believed their whole lives, and who am I to tell them any different? But I'm just like, that's okay, because I have a relationship with Jesus, and I think I have a good one with him, and I feel good about it. Yeah. And if you don't feel good about it, like, that's between you and Jesus. It doesn't involve
That's
me.
That's a good way of putting it. I like that. It's between you and Jesus. You might want to work that out with him.
Right, because it's not about me. Like, it's not my business.
Hey, I'm on my journey. You're on your journey. And I'm following my gut. I'm following my instincts. I'm following my curiosities. I'm following where the information leads me. Right. And in the end, I'm sure I'm going to end up right where I need to be, right where I was supposed to always be. Right. The conclusions, the journey, the figuring it out, the being confused, and the discovery. I mean, it's all part of what I've been doing for 10 years. And it's interesting. I don't have your gift. I've kind of gone at this a different way with hypnosis, and hypnosis seems to be another way of looking behind the veil in some respects. Right. Because not only can we help people stop smoking, but if your grandmother comes in and talks to you and tells you you need to quit smoking, then no extra charge.
Right.
I can't predict when that's going to happen. But it's just another way of looking around the corners. I don't know. Some people don't think we should look around the corners. And there's lots of ways that, you can meditate and get into these spaces. Some people take mushrooms and get into these spaces.
Right. Yeah, that's common.
It's very common.
Right.